Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 396. Today is Saturday, January 1st, 2022, and I'm glad you could join me today. I was like, we're going to get the date right at least today. Not that I've been getting the date wrong, but would it be? It's just hard to believe that 2021 is over. Whatever. So you'll notice that things are looking a little bit different. I concluded, for efficiency's sake, to record in the middle of the great stash sort of 2022. And so my yarn shelf is conspicuously empty right now. But don't worry, we've got plenty of yarn and fiber. So would it be like in the midst of a lot of reorganization and rejiggering? But like, don't worry, we've got it all. It's all in the bed. So, but as a result, I was sort of like, okay, we'll record while the light's really good. We're almost to bad late o'clock. We don't have time to get everything into bags before that happens, but I can record a podcast and pulled out the certain things that I needed in order to do that. We're gonna call that good for now. Would it be? It's not like I am the sort, or would it be? Like or would it be? I ended up finding out a very important thing when I did the stash sort, which was that, would it be? I had some mold growing on the wall, so I had to bleach wipe that into oblivion. Would it be? So that was the big thing there, was making sure that I could get that cleaned up and dried out before I put the stash back. And maybe it's the case where I also just need to go in with tenacious stuff. I'm not 100% sure. But that's why you don't just leave your stash to sit. Like, pull it all out, look at it, make sure everything is okay. Because you don't know what's going on back there unless you do get it all out and examine it and move on with your day. So, that was a big thing for me, at least. And then also just, what would it be? Getting things reconfigured. So yesterday we swapped what desk was in this room, so I no longer have, I have like a more conventional desk in here, which is like slightly inconvenient, but I'll accept it because I didn't want to move the desk. I didn't want to help get the desk onto a different floor of the house. We would need more friends. So there was an acceptable way to get the desk in here, so I was like, okay, fine. So there's a little bit more room because the new desk is not as long, but whatever, we'll figure stuff out. And then there's also just stuff where I was like, yes, I want to keep this. Yes, it probably belongs in this room, but no, I haven't figured out where exactly in the room it goes. So there's some extra chaos because of that. Whatever. But all my pictures are taken. I'm reasonably happy with the pictures I got. What is not so clear is exactly what's going to be in my spin the bin this year. So I thought spin the bin was going to be, not happening this year, but new thread went up, so I'll I'll make a bin because it's nice to have spinning intentions. And what was clear when I pulled out all the fiber, which I think was also clear earlier too, but um, was like I have a lot of yarn spool fiber, so I think that needs to be my next spinning intention for 2022, is making some headway there. But either I'll have like a little addendum after I get that bit sorted, or something else, who knows. So I am sort of tempted to take a picture of me just lying down in all of the yarny goodness, because that's always a classic. Whatever. You gotta know yourself. But what was maybe very instructive about the whole thing was, in terms of like stash, like my hand spun and my sweater quantities are about sort of the same amount of aspect ratio. My shawl specific yarn, which I thought was a little bit out of control, not as bad as I thought. And then even my sock yarn didn't seem to be like, oh my gosh, what in the world I'm gonna do. It was the case where I was like, would it be like getting plans for the hand spun, getting moving on sweater quantities is going to be sort of the best relief valve, so to speak, for the stash. And then, as I sort of like knew already, my more miscellaneous stuff is totally manageable, and I probably would have known into a project already. Plans had changed, so not too crazy. But yeah, no, I'm just like looking at the vast field of yarn and fiber and being like, I probably shouldn't have thought more less yesterday. Whatever, it's okay. I have fun plans, so that's festive. Whatever. So, and then as is typical, at least for me, I don't include works in progress in the stash photo, so those ended up being separate the whole time. Also, I just didn't want to deal with getting it all out and putting it all back in. Be like, whatever. So, if you want to check out that video, maybe I'll figure out a way to get a link into the description box. Hopefully that's not too hard. If you want to have me chitter chatter about yarn for a while, it's like, I don't know, it's like about a 2.5 hour stream. At some point I was like, I'm hungry. There are choices I need to make that I'm not prepared to make at the moment. Move on with my day. So that's a story there. So hopefully it will be. So I'll have to do some rejiggering again and get the podcast stuff out of the way so I can just take a full picture of the stash in one go. But not too crazy. It's always a good thing to do, I think. So, I had, or would it be? It feels like it hasn't been like a super knitting heavy week for me this week. I'm not entirely sure how to qualify that exactly, but or maybe just like the past couple of days have been very busy. So it'd be the case where, what would it be? We're doing big house rejiggering, so that's taking brain space. I'm doing more spinning, so that is resulting in less knitting. Would it be taking care of other business in my time off. So luckily, after today, I still have 2 more full days off, so all of Sunday and all of Monday. Yay, observation of New Year's. So that is good. But yeah, no, it'd be the case where it just doesn't feel like I've made oodles of headway on stuff, but such is life. Or would it be like the other thing? Or would it be so? I had, see, it's not even the right time. I don't know. Well, technically speaking, I ended up walking to the local yarn shop yesterday, and I did end up knitting as I did my little walk. So it'd be the case where I think it's, I don't know, like 2.5 miles to the yarn shop, but it's 500, or would it be? It's 525 feet up and 108 down, and then you swap that for the way back. So what would it be? So over 600 feet of elevation gain in order to go there. So and the steepest part is, of course, closest home. Both ways. Whatever, that's the problem with living on the hill. Definitely ran into someone who's like, wow, it is impressive that you are knitting and walking. I'm like, I am a very impressive person. But that meant that I ended up getting some pretty good progress on this project, which is the Baby Surprise Jacket by Elizabeth Zimmerman. And I'm like actually trying to think. It may be the case where I talked about starting the project last week. So really, this is most of my knitting content. Yeah, it's plausible. So this is probably actually most of my knitting content. As you do. So this is a classic pattern. I am knitting the 1 year size, which means that I am using DK weight yarn in order to make that happen. And I am knitting with my Woolmeister DK Mouse Young scraps from my gray cardigan. And then I am knitting with my leftovers from the rainbow hat that I had recently finished. So, and the rainbow hat is in the mail, winging its way to Scotland now. So I am glad that that got taken care of. Even managed to get the customs form appropriately filled out. So hopefully that makes it to the recipient without too much pain. It would be, and it's also the joke because the recipient will primarily just knit hand spun into baby hats, so I felt like it was appropriate that there was a hat for them, a whole adult hat, and then the scraps would be turned into a baby object. So that is fine. And I would like to wrap this up fairly quickly because I want to order a pair of zippers because I have the original Baby Surprise Jacket, and then I have this Baby Surprise Jacket, and my intention is to put zippers in both. We call it good. So, what would it be? And this is such a fun pattern for, or would it be like the scale of the pattern and the scale of the gradient are really well matched to each other, so that is nice. Sort of like how the scale of the pattern and the scale of the gradient was really well matched for the hat too. And I have now exceeded the progress I had on the previous Baby Surprise Jacket before I lost it. So this is also like healing for me, accepting that that poor thing is also gone forever. What would it be? I guess the yarn did leave my stash, but so did that project bag. Oh well. So that is the story there. So it's been a fun knit. It's been engaging. It's turning out really cute. What would it be? There might have been a way for me to. I concluded to maintain the integrity of the gradient over using up every last bit of the hand spun, which I may or may not be filled with regret later. But like, it's so cute. Holy mackerel. So there is a little bit of a gray block there, but that just means the front still has whatever, so the front will have the appropriate little, we'll have the gradient continue nicely from sleeve to front. And really, I don't have too much more left to knit at this point, realistically. So, what would it be? And I'm holding it this way. I concluded that I did want to just leave it this way, but so it is coming along really nicely. Whatever, there's just a little bit of the, what would it be, a little bit of a block of just gray. So at this point, the rows are getting long enough where I might very quickly reach the end of the rainbow and then have another gray block where I end up whacking in the zipper. But what would it be? And zipper just because, what would it be? It just makes life better. So at the moment, not really planning on making pullovers. Or we'll figure out however the nugget turns out and whether or not that makes sense. So, almost done. But it's a baby sweater, it's not super big either. And then this ball is definitely getting pretty hollow and empty at this point. This one still is ample yarn. I might be able to make yet another, baby thing out of this, or it's just gonna live as scraps in the stash. That's also a possibility as well. But it was really freaking adorable. And in order for the best juju possible, I'm keeping it in my produce bag with my name on it. I don't want to lose any more baby sweaters. Alas. So I don't think I managed to make any progress on the sweater for me this week. Did I have good intentions of getting the sleeve started? Yes. Is it hanging out in this bag was probably a bit too small for it? Yes. But the baby surprise jacket and the lure of garter got me. But so this is Donner Elizabeth Daughtry out of my hand spun. It's gorgeous. It's just not been what I've felt like working on recently. And then another whip that's hanging out is the reknit of the socks. I have not gotten started on that one. We'll just do a little jigger. Okay. So I've not gotten started on that, but it is waiting in my bag, ready to go. And then I am taking this particular spinning whip with me into 2022. So this is my Angora Merino and Polworth probably silk blend that I put together that I'm combo spinning and spinning on drop spindles. So I have 4 ounces in this bag, and I may take this out and weigh it. If I have 2 ounces in here, then I'll declare this bit and this bit as a part of my spin the bin this year, sort of like being like, I intend to finish these works in progress, as you do. But I did get something restarted, one of my fixes. So as you know, or would it be, as I've probably mentioned before, for some reason San Francisco makes me just feel a little bit cold, or it's warm enough that you can leave the house in a sweater, and because my jacket is not fitting, or would it be, or it's pretty comical, I've taken to starting to just wear a sweater out when I leave the house. And mostly that's been my weekender, but I would also like to be able to wear my crayon etching out as well, because they're both, or would it be, my weekender is cotton, linen, and wool. This guy here is just all wool, and both of them are worsted weight. I probably could also wear my beatnik as well. I need to make sure that's out on the open for rotation purposes, but what would it be? It's just like when it's like 50, 57 out, like having a worsted weight sweater is pretty nice. But one of the problems I had was that the linen stitch gauge, which I think I knit on like size 10 or 11 needles, is so much different than the ribbing gauge. So I am doing a faster rate of decrease and knitting these on 6s. So will the ribbing between here and here look a little bit different? Maybe. Do I even have a good way of gauging if I've made it small enough? I don't know. But I am redoing the ribbing, and I'll just knit until I run out of yarn. I had like ample, so I just have quite a bit left to go. So I'll be able to tell if I'm in the ballpark, if I have actually managed to make the sleeve longer. And I just have this crazy tangle of yarn that I'm just pulling from. So I haven't even bothered to straighten it. I've just ripped it out back to the linen stitch, pulled out my size 6 9-inch circular, and I'm just gonna make it happen. So it's also weird because it seemed like the counts were a little bit different between them, so I was like, you know what, this will be fine. So that is the story there, is I am making progress on that. So when I've not felt like working on the garter, then I'll swap to ribbing for a little while, get a little bit more done on that one, and life continues on. Should I get a sleeve started at Honor? Yes. Have I yet? No. Is now the best time? Probably. So whatever. We'll get it figured out eventually. But good to know that that is now getting mended. Or would it be reknit? Would it have been a good stash item? Probably. But whatever. Like, winter is here now. I would like to be able to wear this sweater more frequently. The best way to do that is to fix the sleeves. I only, like, the yarn that's in the sweater is the only yarn that I've got, so that meant, what would it be? And it was the fact where the ribbing part of the sleeve was way out of proportion from the rest of it, so it was the perfect amount of ease too in the linen stitch, like exactly what I wanted to be. So the fact that it was way too much ease in the lower part of my arm, was just like, okay, this is silly. Like, I can turn this ease into length. So that's what's going to happen. So that's going nicely. So that's crayon etching. I'm trying to knit it in as reversible a way as possible, because I do flip the sweater inside out depending on mood. So 2x2 ribbing was a pretty good choice for making that look the way I wanted it to. I'm probably not going to reknit the bottom ribbing. I'm just gonna leave that be. Like, I'm happy with the length of it. It was the sleeve length and sleeve ease that I was less happy about. So, fixing that now. Good to go. Pretty straightforward knitting too, so it may be the case where, depending on which way my attention goes. There was one more skein that I needed to fish. Fish out of the pile. Oh no. I think I should go do that now. So I do have a finished object. It wasn't too terrible. It was actually pretty close to the top, all things considered. I was kind to myself. So this is washed and blocked and good to go, and this is my base 12 spin along. So this was something that Hipstrings puts together every year. It is a non-denominational countdown where would it be? Jill of Hipstrings ends up putting together these 75% wool, 25% silk blends based on like a inspiration image, and then puts them in 12 little packs. And then the cutesy thing they do is that the counting goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, 10. And that's how you count in base 12. It comes with a little die. And after sort of watching these streams and finding out like the first day that would it be there, it wasn't going to be a gradient. It was actually going to be sort of a mix of neutrals and brights. That what I was going to do was split the fiber in half. I would spin one bobbin in the order of the base 12. So whatever the 1 all the way through 10, and then the other bobbin I would roll the die, because I also found that to be whatever interesting and festive to do. And honestly, it might have been the case where if I end up doing this next year, which who knows, I might actually do something where I actually split it into thirds and do 3 bobbins. Because what would it be? Because I think that would end up resulting in a lot of fun color mixing and that sort of thing. So, what would it be? So, pretty much for the whole skein, I ended up getting it so that, what would it be? There was always like a bright with a neutral as I was applying, with a couple of places where I ended up getting bright on bright, which, whatever. Like, I want to say it was somewhere between like half to 2/3 were brights. And there were definitely fibers that were more fun to spin and less fun to spin, which would it be? Loved the bats. Oh, bats were so good. I also liked the gray merino silk blends quite a lot, and so those were hand dyed by Jill. And participate in the live streams. We generally watch to catch up. Generally, you ended up finding a little bit on about the fiber every day. And did this as a 2-ply. Ran out of the Chaos Bobbin first, so I have a pretty good chunk of actually just straight up dark blue on one end of this. I got 1,021 yards in 6 ounces. So, lace weight. But I'm like, I already have like a project vision for this. Like, I want to knit a Holden shawl because I ended up giving my Holden shawl away. But I think I want to alternate ends of the ball. So this will have, roughly speaking, 12 color blocks with a couple of transition regions in it. And if I alternate, then it will look more like, or would it be, I think that'll still look pretty cool. And so this has like some acidy green, some Barbie pink, dark purple, dark blue, light blue, a bunch of different sort of like neutral shades in there. Not that you can really see super well based on where this ended up getting stained up, but there's also like some black. Would it be some of the neutral ones have pops of bright color in them from Sari Silk. Sari Silk was a split decision as to whether or not it was fun to spin or not, but whatever. Sometimes it was nice, sometimes it was like, ah. And those were a part of Jill's like signature blends. So, what it be? But skein is done. Turned out really soft, really nice hand to it. What it be? I think it's going to make a very lovely shawl. Because it's 6 ounces, it will be a substantial shawl, which I appreciate. So yeah, but it turned out very nice. So you're sort of, or would it be, you're sort of getting the, or would it be, in places where bright applied on bright, it is very bright indeed. But it should end up making like a pretty fun shawl at the end of the day. So that was a fun adventure. Or would it be? And like a lot of, would it be? A lot of the blue family, because Jill likes jewel tones like me, so that's why I figured it was a pretty safe bet to do a mystery spin like that, because I know our color aesthetics are similar. So that was a really fun project and got me spinning on my wheel again. Though I will say, can't spend as much time spinning, as I tend to be sitting in this chair and leaning forward, like at least like a little bit. And so that just isn't a position that's comfortable for very long for me right now. So would it be? I've also been doing some spinning where I've been sitting on the bed. The nursery little one has been lying on the bed behind me, and we've been watching stuff on Netflix. And so that's a good compromise because he likes watching stuff laying down, and I like watching stuff sitting up. And we can both be comfortable because the bed height for this bed is good for spinning. The height for spinning on this chair is a little wrong. Would it be? Though almost like the shape of the chair is such that it may never actually be a good spinning chair. What would it be? That poor ugly chair that was the chair of podcasting, probably just needs to be recovered in some sort of brilliant blue, and life continues on. Whatever. Whatever. It's what I like about this chair is that it has low arms, and it's dead flat. So this one I feel a little bit whatever. My legs are not straight when I'm sitting in this chair. So my knees are higher than my hips, or whatever, something like that. But because I finally sort of cracked open the seal on wheel spinning again after sort of whatever, semi-languishing on the spindle project, like not total languishing, semi-languishing, I decided to get another thing on the wheel. So one thing that you don't want to do is let bats sit. So the bats that I ended up making for my Secret Santa swap, my swappy loves them. What would it be? The other people who were participating in the swap were a little jealous because I knew I was gonna card bats for whoever I got. So I'm spinning some very out of character fiber. Because honestly, I didn't really have like the colors that would make sense in the stash for my swappy. So this is Nest Rambouillet in I think this was like the Floret colorway, where they were coordinates for the Floret, which was one of the club bangs. Got 8 ounces of the fiber, turned that into 4 2-ounce bats. And then I Z-stripped this 4-ounce bat, which has a layer of green on one side, and then layers of pink, yellow, and white on top. There may have been a gradient in it. I don't remember. I'm not entirely sure what ended up going down with this. But it is spinning up with what would be sort of random little pops of color in it. So occasionally you'll get like a little bit more green, sometimes you'll get a little bit more yellow, sometimes a little bit more pink. And they're all reasonably harmonious together. And so the plan, and I made this into a giant Z, which has now fallen off the wheel. But I think it is obvious which hand is which. So I just took the bat and Z-stripped it so you can sort of see where my little Z's are living on this. That's whatever. So this is like a Z right here. It's working out reasonably well. What would it be? Just keep drafting down as you go. Trying to make sure that I get a pretty good mix of colors as I'm drafting, but I think what this has taught me is what would it be if you have just a single layer of a color, the way it spins up is you sometimes have it, you sometimes don't, whereas when you have sort of more layers of color, you end up getting more blending. There we go. You can sort of see how stratified that is. But like, I'm not entirely sure what I was doing when I guess I was feeling sort of experimental and like, I wonder what happens if I do this. So it's turning out lovely. Very curious to see what the final yarn will turn out as. So I have this 2 ounces I'm spinning now, which that's like work in progress plausibly, so makes sense. It makes sense that I should not include this bad boy in the bin because it's less than 2 ounces anyways, but I'll include the other fat in the bin as well because I do fully intend to spin this up. And then I will do some sort of plying of it. Would it be? The jury's still out if I decide to ply this and the straight up gradient together, or if I make two coordinating skeins, or because I'm spinning it pretty fine right now, if I want to like chain ply them in order to get like a little bit thicker yarn, which will be easier to use. Not sure. We'll figure something out eventually. If I two ply them, then chain ply them. That could be fascinating. Would it be? I definitely do like making that structure on occasion, so it's a distinct possibility. And the nice thing is that this is 4 ounces, so everything's going to fit really nicely on my regular bobbin, so I don't need to do a lot of bobbin swapping and or flyer swapping, because if I have, like, I pulled out my jumbo flyer to get this because I'm pretty bold, but 5 ounces is where I draw the line. That was 6, so what would it be? That's okay. So, can't spin for nearly as long right now. Don't know how my spinning is going to change for next year. When I do put together my spin the bin properly, I will need to make some choices. Or would it be, I don't think, or I need to be kind to myself and be like, you know what, don't know how life is going to change with the tiny human on the outside, so I'm going to declare a very minimal bin, and I probably won't do use it or lose it this year. As usual, what would it be? Like, so some of it, it'd be the case where I do not need that stress in my life right now. So that is a start there. So glad that there is a little bit more spinning mojo. Maybe laughing at myself a little bit just because when I think about, like, would it be like knitting down stash, like definitely it would be much more productive to get some of the yarn out rather than squishing whatever, spinning the fiber out. Oh well, such is life. So that is the state of the works in progress, like carrying over into next year. Had I given myself some more time, maybe I could have done something more of a project retrospective. I did finally manage to find an application which would aggregate my Instagram posts last night, and finally got that to chew on my posts, and so what would it be? It was, or would it be, well, I do post a lot of sunsets and food. What would it be? That is not what the people want, but that is what I want. So what would it be? We shall continue, or fog as well. But it was like my number one Instagram post from last year was the baby announcement, followed by anniversary dinner, then 4 finished objects, my great stash photo of last year, yarn chicken, winning yarn chicken for the Bay Area Fiber Fair, and then finally a handspun project. So what would it be? The people have spoke. They also don't care about spinning. They're mostly knitters. But I like spinning, so I'm going to keep spinning. It's fine. And one of those sweaters was a hand-spun sweater, so what would it be? They might be more interested in the knitting that you make with spinning than otherwise. So whatever, that was amusing. But that was a pretty good retrospective. So a couple of my big projects, or I did have a couple of big projects this year. Would it be like my whatever, having a whole freaking color work handspun sweater, pretty cool. And that was partially project whatever. I did the spinning last year and the knitting this year, so it's fine. And then other handspun sweaters will end up, will end up getting finished this year instead of last year. No big deal. So, what would it be? Oh, it'll be interesting. I did get confirmation that Fluff to Stuff is not happening this year in 2022. So I think part of this is Mina, the knitting expert, recently announced that she is having a kiddo this year. So I'm betting that's when you have one of the organizers out, it definitely makes it much more challenging to run a big dog and pony show like that. So that is fine. I really did enjoy the challenge though. So I'm glad that Spin the Bin is continuing. Would it be? So it'd be the case where, in terms of challenges, I'll probably be doing Spin the Bin. I'll be doing Stash Dash, and then eventually, would it be Bay Area Fiber Fair? So that sort of intersects with Stash Dash at the same time, but would it be slightly different goals? Not too crazy. But I had mentioned that I had gone to the local yarn store. So the closest yarn store to my house is Firebird Yarns. The first LYS that I started regularly attending was Black Squirrel, which is in Berkeley. And then I had been going almost weekly to the Royal Bee in Pacifica, which is fairly close driving wise, would it be? And all three shops tend to have a very similar sort of, would it be a very similar niche or whatever, or they're at the very least fairly complementary. So it would be the case where there is like hand dye, indie dye, and workhorse at like the Black Squirrel. It's the case where Firebird is known for putting together fades. They have an amazing indie dye and locally dyed section, and they have the ridiculous sale. And then Royal Bee has, would it be, sort of, or would it be, they have hand-dyed yarn, a lot of like naturally dyed yarn, but also would it be a case where they, for example, carry Woolfolk. Stuff is so good. So it'd be the case, or would be, so they also have, or their local dyers tend to also be natural dyers. So it'd be the case where they all sort of fit together as like a mosaic of local dyers, indie dyers, and workhorse sort of yarns in order to make stuff. So definitely a fan of all three. But so I ended up going down to Firebird, got to meet someone who I had originally met on Zoom in the flesh, so that was super lovely. And I ended up getting a mixture of things. So they have a progressive sale from the 26th of December to the 31st of December. And so every day the discount gets better and better. And I went on the last day. So the risk is that you may not be able to find something in the quantity that you want or the colors that you want. Would it be, there was a decent amount of stuff where you're just like, huh, okay, like not my aesthetic, but they had this. So this is Yak, which is a Citron product, and it is 70% extra fine merino, 30% yak. And I do love a merino yak base because the jewel tones on it dye so gorgeous. And so they had 3 of these. I think they had like 2 or 3 of a fuchsia and 1 of a red. But I concluded after having my great sweater debate earlier this year of figuring out I have this sweater quantities worth of handspun. What sweater am I going to knit with it? I came up with a bunch of ideas of sweaters that took about 1,500 yards of light fingering weight wool, which this is. So this is 100 grams, 500 meters, so 510 yards. And so I think I'm going to do the, what would it be? So I'm going to knit another one of those sweaters. Yeah, I'm going to end up knitting the Japanese yoke one that was originally meant for Molmesa. And this is a fairly tightly spun, probably at least 3-ply yarn, so I think the twisted stitches laciness is going to look really nice in this yarn, but it's also going to have more halo than what Molmesa would have. Feels really nice. And so one of the employees, Leanne, lives like across the hill from me, is also a part of my Monday night knit group, and she very helpfully like brought the yarn to me and was like, "This is what you're thinking of, right?" But it's like, yeah, it's she wanted to make sure that it was in my possession while I was mulling over the purchase. So I have to laugh at myself because then you take a picture of all the sweater quantities. You're like, it is a distinct color from the sweater quantities. It is a distinct yarn from the sweater quantities. I know, I probably could have also knit that sweater in Molmesa with Molmesa hold. Well, I probably would have been bold to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do a single statement held a double. And saved a horrifying amount of money on it, so I think it was $40 with tax for that sweater quantity. So I feel pretty good about that purchase. The other thing that I got was so Fully Spun is the Black woman-owned business, and their thing is dyed in the wool, plied together yarn. And so I ended up picking up 2 skeins to knit a woolly worm head pattern. Oh, I'll keep that back. So this is the DK in the colorway Berry Trifle, and this is the fingering in the colorway The Blue Hole. And so this guy is, technically speaking, sock yarn, so this is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And then this guy is 100% merino, superwash merino. But the plan is to make a Azula hat with this. And actually, I think I'm just going to go ahead and buy the whole Elemental collection from Woolly Wormhead because it looks so cool. And I've sort of, I guess, broken the seal, so to speak, on I only need one hat. So I want to use this as like the blue flames because whatever, I found that to be very entertaining, and then this will end up being a very great contrast color with it. And would it be? And the fact that this is like a 3-ply and this is a 2-ply means I should get some really cool effects holding this one doubled. There was like Aaron in the colorway, but there wasn't this one in the DK. So would it be? Should be fun. Would it be? This was a bit more of a splurge because would it be? These are more expensive, but they are 100-gram skates, so would it be cheaper than Spin Cycle in many respects? And could I make yarn like this as hand spun? Absolutely. Did I want to, or would it be? Did I figure? Would it be? Good opportunity to support a Black-owned business in this case. So, so that was what I was going for here. So, very excited about this. Totally jewel tone happiness. So it should be fine. And I probably will be able to actually get several. I'll be able to get at least 2 hats out of this yarn. So I might make another hat from the Elemental collection with this as well. Maybe like swapping colors or something like that. We'll have to figure it out. But what would it be? Like, what gets me a little bit, because I did end up looking at, or would it be? It'd just be the case where it's like, oof, the Elemental collection is definitely pricey, definitely paying for a book in that situation, but the individual patterns are like $9 a piece, so probably worth it just to get the collection. But I definitely have no clue how to reverse engineer that on my own, and I would like to support Woolly, so I was like, you know what, we will do it. It'll be fine. Let it be. Life continues on. And I'm sure I'll end up finding entertaining uses for the other stuff as well. And the Elemental hats are all pretty gartery, but with short row details, in order to sort of make like a balanced fabric. And so that's what looks so freaking cool about it. But I feel like as a fire sign, I need a fire hat. Well, we'll make it work. I just have to lean into that part of my identity. So, and it'd be the case where I don't tend to have a lot of heavier weight yarn in the stash, so I'll just make sure I keep them together because I intend to use them together. And it should be fun and festive. So, I think with that, that's everything I wanted to cover today. I will end up having probably a Saturday episode next week, but it may be a little bit light and dark, because I have to take another baby class in the prime part of the day. So, what would it be? We're at an hour anyways. Should be good. But yeah, no, I have baby shower happening on the Sunday, and that's going to take up enough time that whatever. We'll just assume that recording Saturday because I have slightly more time then. Unless I'm panic cleaning options. So with that, I hope you have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.